Hello there. Welcome to the Antlered Crown podcast, where we discuss brews, witchcraft, spirituality, and more.
We hope through conversation we can continue to learn something new from ourselves and each other.
So come on in.
Today we're going to be talking to PolishFolkWitch, also known as Joanna. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Amanda, and I'm usually tech support, but today not so much.
Tech breaker, what she is today.
We're hoping this audio turns out okay because I broke the mic.
It's all right. We'll get it fixed.
It'll be fine.
Right.
So let's start with our Ask Elwynn segment.
Oh,
Unless you have anything else to add to that.
no, I suppose if you have to do the Ask Elwynn segment.
Yeah. I don't know how to say that.
What?
You go for it. Go on and say that word.
Domidinus.
That name. Domidinus.
Yeah.
What should I do to get more grounded? I've tried every technique, but when I do spills or give a reading, I get sick the day after. I think it has to do with not being well grounded. Any ideas?
I wouldn't say it has to be with you being grounded, personally. I think it's kind of the opposite. It's the same when you're healing. When you heal, you often take on that energy when someone is sick, when someone is in pain. The idea is you're supposed to act as a conduit, not just a battery. So you're not supposed to tape. You're supposed to channel. You're supposed to channel what you're doing. And it's the same when you're doing a reading. It's kind of the opposite. You're channeling what you're doing. However, if you don't cut yourself off, if you don't channel properly, you then end up completely open. You wake up drained, feeling rough, because it's like leaving the stove on. You know? So it's not so much in the way of grounding. I would first try to access channeling. Best way to do that, I was told, is imagine yourself to be a tree. Trees, the grounding, the rooting effect of grounding, the visualization of a tree is like super important, right? But at the same time, so is the top of the tree. The top of the tree should mimic the roots as well. And when you have the top of the tree, what you're doing is you're expelling energy outwards, the same way a tree expels outwards at the top. So although rooting grounded is great, you have to make sure that both are working. So I would first look at that, if that makes sense. I didn't really eloquate that, but it's been a hell of a day. It's been a hell of a day.
Oh, do you have any opinions on Domidinus's question?
You know what? I also think that it doesn't necessarily have to do with grounding, because to me it sounds like somewhere in the entirety of this person's, you could say, like, for a lack of a better word, energetic hygiene, something is missing basically, and they are not properly dealing with all of the things that they are, as you said, channeling, or in general just being in touch with, because it can be a lot to do spell work or divination. And I would ask, like, what does grounding mean to you, first of all? And why do you think this is a grounding issue? Because there might be something to it. But also, like, what kind of spirits are you working with when you do those things? Are you well acquainted with them? Do you have like a, good both ways communication about who expends energy in what ways, that kind of thing, just to make sure that it's fair and equal, and you have ways to balance it out afterwards. Because to me, it sounds like this person maybe doesn't know where to set boundaries, how to do that on an energetic level. So afterwards, it just kind of seems to me like they keep being in that space, whereas they shouldn't be anymore, right? So
Yeah.
Mm.
a lot to look at here. I think we would
Oh
need
yeah.
like more data to
Yeah.
properly
True.
answer.
Well, I hope that answered your question. I can't say that name. There's too many D's and I's there.
Domidinus. How did your practice begin,
Hmm.
and how has your craft evolved?
Yeah, that's one of those questions that you can go on for hours. I'm sure like every witch has a crazy story about how it all started, right? And for each of us, this is probably slightly different depending on where we live and like the culture that we grew up in. For me, the easiest way I can explain my journey with this whole thing is that from a very early age, I was kind of, you could say, plagued by spirits to the point where at 3 years old, I had a meeting with the devil. And I also had meetings with spirits of the dead throughout my early childhood, that kind of thing. It was very intense, I have to admit. And I know that it sounds like I might qualify for a award of some kind based on that alone. I do realize. But anyway, having those experiences throughout the years, obviously, when you're a child, you don't really like understand the context and all of that.
Yeah.
But at some point, it kind of became, uh, annoying to have to deal with that. So around 15 years old was when I truly like decided for myself consciously that I need something, some kind of spiritual practice to be able to um learn how to deal with this, learn how to, I don't know, control this, that kind of thing. And that's basically how it all started for me. I have to
Mm.
say, like, nowadays, I am a folk practitioner and have been for quite a few years now, but that's not
Mm.
really how I started because I didn't have, like, background growing up, having somebody who could introduce me into those topics. So I had to search myself, which means that back in the day, back in the olden days, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that old, but still, like, I didn't have internet when I was starting. So
Yeah.
basically you go to the library and what you find is what you start with. That's
Mhm.
how I feel like it started for many people my age and older. Yeah, I've been through quite a few paths, and I guess I experimented with different approaches to magic, but in the end, I arrived at Polish folk magic as something that's closest to home, and kind of resonates the most with the way I view the world, being an animist and being very, I guess, concerned with and interested in the land around me and having living connections with, the community of humans and spirits that are
Mm.
around me. So that's kind of how it all, I guess, evolved. As I say, pretty early on, but not really something I fully chose, I suppose.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh,
I think that's interesting because I feel like from the majority of witches we have interviewed on the podcast,
mm.
it's usually like a coming of age story more so. Like 16 or 17, they start dabbling around puberty. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that yours was so much earlier.
Yeah. And also out of a form of necessity in order to control your natural abilities
Mm-hmm.
as well,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it makes sense. It's I find a lot of times you find people come to witchcraft usually during kind of teenage years as an act of rebellion as well. Um,
Yeah.
that's one of the major things. But no, I completely understand. I kind of relate as well to that idea of especially communication with spirits, because it gets loud, it gets crowded. And as a child, it's I had people there to explain it, but at the same time, even then, it's not, you don't believe them, if you know what I mean. You're like, this can't be true because this would be exhausting. Like,
Yeah.
but you know, you it's one of those trust the process things, isn't it? Trust the process of it. Um, and yeah, no, I completely understand what you mean there. Is and
I
thank
think
good.
you had like support from early on, right? Because you, if I understand correctly, like you've had family who's been doing
Yeah,
this for a long
yeah.
time. So that must have been nice. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but
It it was no, it was nice. It was always encouraged as well, from my aunts, and my two aunts encouraged it, and they would tell me what to do, a lot of the times, and how to kind of control it in that way. But even then, it sometimes it was a little bit, because one of the things that I noticed is that spirits of the dead weren't something that would naturally come to me. I would see spirits, but they wouldn't look like people. They would be strange animal sort of creatures and things like this, very strange things and things that didn't really look right, like almost like things that were made out of smoke and things like that, you know. And it took a while. My aunt, and I remember telling my aunts, like, I don't think I see the same things as you're seeing. And
Right.
I told them, and I was worried they thought I would be mad. But what they actually described was, you know, what I'm seeing are spirits, but not spirits of dead. They're not anything that's human in that way, but they're spirits that are surrounding us, that live more connected to the earth in that way. And that was, for me, that validated a lot for me, because
Yeah.
it, for a while, even then, I started to wonder if there was something wrong with me. Because I
Right.
was like, everyone's talking about they see these lovely people who talk to them about
You see
things.
Granny or somebody.
And I've seen this like little hairy person over in the corner who's like jumping up and down. And I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand this. Yeah.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah.
Yeah, must have been interesting to have the aunts to like ask about and be able to compare experiences, right, from early on.
It
That's
was.
awesome.
It was nice. I think that's one of the things that I think I probably took that for granted, to be honest, because it was there, you know. Although living with my aunts, I eventually went to go and live with my mother. My mother had natural abilities. However, she grew up in a convent. And so
Okay.
any natural ability soon got turned into a fear of it. And so my mother was quite scared of me, and anything that I would say or do, you know. And then, so a lot of the time at that point, I would always go to my aunts. Even then, I would even run away
Yeah.
and just go to my aunts, and till eventually I managed to get back to them, and I ended up living with them again, um, because it was just it was too different. There was no understanding there at all. It was, yeah. It felt like you have to be a completely different person. You know?
Yeah.
It's not.
It's stifling.
It is, especially for a child. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? It's kind of funny the way you're describing this lack of understanding and fear that comes from this background that your mom had. Kind of sounds like having to deal with people in Poland here, which like everybody is Catholic. So there's
Yeah.
no like, there's no variety when it comes to that. Back when I was growing up, like I kid you not, 98% of people here were Catholic.
Oh
Right.
my goodness.
I know that it's changing nowadays as, you know,
Yeah.
times change and we are kind of more open to the West since, you know, in the
Mhm.
Yeah.
90s, like, you know, communism ceased being a thing and we became free people. So we are
Mhm.
slowly opening up, but the cultural experience is very much rooted in Catholicism. So
Mm.
everybody's like very, very scared of these things. So you can't really talk to anybody about
Yeah.
it. And growing up, I'm fortunate, I guess, that my parents kind of tried to be understanding at least and weren't like actively scared of the things I were telling them about. Because, you know,
Right.
obviously sometimes the experiences that you have as a child, if you see a spirit or something, it's scary. Like,
Yeah.
how do you deal
Mhm.
with that? So obviously you tell your parents and they probably think different things about
Mhm.
you. But yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad that mine were at least supportive enough so I didn't, I don't know, develop some kind of aversion to what I'm seeing, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who is the greatest inspiration to you?
You know what? This is gonna sound edgy as fuck, but I'm gonna say the devil. and that's And I think that's because that's the first spiritual experience that I remember. As I said, being 3 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night and I saw the devil. He was red as fuck and smiling at me. I can still remember every detail. So I think, like, since that moment on, even though I did not always recognize him as a figure that I would actively like turn to for advice or guidance. Being older now, I can see how he was always there throughout the years, no matter what kind of paths I dabbled in within witchcraft. So I would
Yeah.
say that the devil would be my primary inspiration, but I know that's edgy. So I'm also going to add my grandmothers because they were both the kind of women who have been through a lot, like the Second World War, communism, a lot of like occupational stuff when it comes to the occupation of Poland, right? Basically, and being like peasants who had to work in the fields, and also being devout Catholics who both were really involved in the cult of Mary, which I don't know, maybe like Catholics are really crazy about Mary, and it's kind of pagan. I
Yeah.
can be open about that.
Yeah.
So I think that with the whole baggage that they had, they were really wise women, and they were really open to also me as a person, and giving me the guidance that they could. So I really appreciate them. They are not here anymore, but I still they are the ones who started me on the path of ancestor work as well, because when they both died, and that was like within a time of maybe 2 years, between the two deaths, uh, they really started getting me interested, their deaths, I mean, in working with the ancestors. Because previously, when I was younger and I was seeing the dead people, I was like, oh, fuck no. But yeah, once they crossed over and I knew that they were my allies, they remain at the center of my ancestor work to this day. So definitely them. And also when it comes to like maybe modern witchcraft figures, authors, etc., I have to mention Roger Horn and Lee Morgan, because I love both of those people's work and what they do for the community. And I love that the work that they put out there is not elitist. It's very like when you read it, I don't know, you probably know them, right?
Yeah.
Like when you read it, you know that they know what's up. They have been practicing and they are genuine about it. They're not trying to make it into something, more edgy or more like elite or whatever than it truly is. So I really appreciate those two authors as well.
Yeah. Aw.
Oh, that's good.
I feel like that was a good segue into our next question, which is what parts from your ancestry have you been called to explore or not? And you kind of talked about your grandmother's a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Is there a part of you that also explored Catholicism and incorporating that into your practice, or is that not something?
Oh, yeah. So when it comes to ancestry, I know that generally when people are asked this, they have something interesting to share about their ancestors. For me, the truth is that like 100% of my ancestors are Slavic. There's like, just people from Eastern Europe, like some from the Balkans, which are still Slavs, and some like from the Baltic area. So in that case, I don't have much to explore, like culturally, you could say, because it's just all just Slavic people, right?
Right.
But when it comes to incorporating the ancestors and ancestry into my work, I think that other than the figures that I mentioned and some others that I work with, what I mostly focus on is actually taking into consideration the regions of Poland that my ancestors lived in for many generations, and incorporating the folklore of that region specifically into my craft, visiting regularly to connect with the land there. Um, what else? I also, what's really important for me is the fact that most of my ancestors were peasants. They weren't, from nobility or whatever. So they were just simple people who, tended to the land, farmed the land, worked with it for survival, and had really simple celebrations of the seasons and all of that. So for me, it's really important to also honor that aspect of my ancestry, and just have a really simple, down to earth practice that honors that and continues to honor the things that were important for them and that they honored as well. So that's it for me.
That's lovely.
That is really nice, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
I
to
like
be
it too.
I told you to find some furniture that we can make an ancestral altar for. And
busy.
that was your thing.
I
I
know.
can do that.
Yeah. We used to have back when we were in America, He said a really lovely ancestral altar.
It was
Just
all right.
haven't.
It was all right.
I guess it wasn't
don't
really
milk it.
lovely. But yeah, we'll have to get cracking on that because it does feel you do feel an absence when you don't have. Does that make sense when you don't have like some kind of space up for them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I moved house like only 3 kilometers away, so it's not far,
Mhm.
but I moved house just 2 years ago. And
Right.
having the initial absence, as you say, of that space,
Mhm.
like before you establish it and put all of that work into it, that it becomes alive, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a lack. You can feel it, that there's this
Mhm.
hole that you really need to have filled in your life and have them
Mhm.
present, because the house is kind of empty without
Yeah,
them, at
it
least
does
for me,
feel
I don't
like
know.
when you don't have furniture in a house yet, like there's
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
echo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Uh,
It's like that with the absence of the spirits and the ancestors when you first like
mhm.
move somewhere. So yeah, I
Right.
definitely
Yeah.
relate to that. You need to set one up, like
I
go for
know.
it.
We do. We do.
And get another microphone, apparently.
And another well, no, just a lead.
Oh my
Just a
gosh.
new lead for it. That will work.
Anyway, your turn.
All right.
Go for it. Pick one.
The online spaces.
That's a good one.
How have you navigated online spaces and negativity?
Ah, yeah. You know what? I have to say that I am kind of forced to live a double life, really, because
Mm,
in my real life, I am a psychologist and I work in this field actively still. So my number one rule is to separate the two. So my
mm,
online life, like
Mm,
nobody from real life and like from my local community know about what I do. I feel
mm,
like it's really important to have that separated, because if
mhm.
that wasn't the case, that would be the primary source of me getting hate and negativity, I feel like.
right, yeah.
So yeah, that's just
Mhm.
the reality of how I have to navigate that. But
Right.
when it comes to the online space that I curate, I guess, um my number one rule really is to like not care about opinions of people I don't know. There's
Mhm.
strangers who are very opinionated online, right? And everybody
Yeah.
knows better what you should do in your practice, and
Yeah.
whether what you're doing is correct or not. For me, it's kind of funny, especially when somebody approaches me who has like Slavic ancestry, but they don't live here. They didn't grow up in this culture, so they have some uh, like specific things they think that we
Mhm.
do based
Um,
on the knowledge that they have, but it's not really, it's not always
Mm.
the reality.
Yeah.
So they come into your space and you sometimes have to clash in a way to explain what the lived experience of being here is like versus what
Right.
they read somewhere on Tumblr or whatever.
yeah.
So I feel like having
Yeah.
strong boundaries really is crucial. But I also feel
Yeah.
like I've been lucky when it comes to the people who are exposed to me, I guess, online. I haven't had like any major dramas, I guess, or situations where I felt like I was threatened in some way. So the
That's good.
community that grew around my content and the things I do online, I feel like they're great people, honestly. So, but I'm
Yeah.
not that big, I guess, online. So maybe that's also part of it. Like the bigger you grow, the numbers, right? The bigger the chance that somebody's going to be an asshole to you. So yeah.
It's a numbers game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. You do
Honestly, though, like I feel like I never want to go viral, like actively. I
yeah.
never want to grow big because I see like you or other bigger creators and what you guys have to deal with. I don't want to have anything to do with that.
It's
I'm just
annoying.
a
It is
nerd.
annoying, to be fair.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to do my thing.
Like
I
you
kind of
can't
love it though.
you can't you can't you can't just say something and
I know.
because someone will deliberately misconstrue what you say
Yeah.
Yes.
just for the sake of having to confront you on it.
That's
Um,
true.
and it gets annoying because it's like we all know what I said. We all know what I meant.
Right.
And one of the things that annoyed me the most was like someone once said, "You don't put any warnings about doing things like with fire or any warnings about." I'm like, because I'm not your pissing parent. Like if you're capable of practicing magic, then you have to deal with the consequences of
Yeah.
your own actions. You know, I think it gets a little bit too far. People take it too far. That we have to wrap everything up in cotton wool and put warning signs on everything. Like, it's common
Yeah.
sense. You know, if
Mhm.
if you can't use common sense and your natural cunning, then you shouldn't be practicing witchcraft.
Oh my God, yes.
You know, in truth,
Mhm.
yeah. A lot of people don't like that, but I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Like you really need to be able to be discerning and have critical thinking skills
Yeah,
to practice witchcraft. Otherwise, you're just gonna get fucked over real soon by the spirits.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Like sometimes people say, like, what do I use as a replacement for something? And you're
Mm.
like, it's obvious, isn't it? Or, I don't have something. Can I use something else? Yes, obviously. I'm not going to say no, you can't.
Yeah.
No, but it's just that being able to adapt and be smart about what you're doing, and I think it's something that I'm not saying people can't learn it. They definitely can learn it, but
Mm.
I think people are so worried
Yeah.
about offending something or doing something wrong. And I think the whole point is they forget it's called a practice. It's a practice for a reason. You're going to get things wrong, but as long as you know how to
Mm.
fix them. I think that's what Roger Horn once said in one of his books, didn't he? He said that, you know, it's being able to fix it. It's when you prove to yourself that you're capable, that you're, being uncomfortable and going a little bit too out of your depth is what kind of proves to you that you're more capable.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so yeah, I like Roger Horn as well. I'm a big fan of Roger Horn. It's
Yeah, that
the way he writes is so easy as
Mm.
well. It cuts through everything and just says, like,
Not pretentious.
it's not at all. It's amazing. Like, just when you read it and you're like, it's one of those books that I find myself just wanting to keep reading. I don't stop and like, I'm going to read to there. I always read too far, and I'm like, oh, I've read too far. And yeah, no, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the thing that makes Roger Horn stand out is that he or she or they, I don't know, because I think it's a like pen name. It seems like
Mm,
it anyway to
yeah.
Mm.
me. So they I think they're not trying to flex who they are, all of the degrees and whatever else. Like some
Mm,
people in the more specialized, especially like traditional witchcraft literature that you read,
Mhm.
like some of those you can tell that it's not really for witches, it's for potentially like researchers who are going to read this
folklorist.
to know, yeah, to
Mm,
know that this person is not only a practitioner but also they have like 3 degrees in something. you know
Mhm.
so
yeah.
yeah, I think it's just kind of obvious. So that's why I love Roger Horn as well as you said, like it's easy to read and it's for actual witches. That's
Yeah.
kind of the point of it. But I also think like in regards to the online stuff, and what you said about people kind of missing common sense sometimes, I think that's really like social media is a great resource for people to maybe get started on the path, but at some point, every witch needs to like level with themselves and be honest when those resources and being on social media gets in the way, to the
Mm,
point where they stop being able to think for themselves and all they do is just copying the things that they saw online, or doing things the way that somebody told them to. Like, this is
yeah.
not what witchcraft is. You're supposed to be kind of rebellious and off the beaten path, and try to explore those things in real with the spirits around you, engage with them, not just with people online. Like, those are two separate things. Like, as you say, witchcraft is a craft, is a practice. It's not something that you just you know think about or read about or watch
Yeah.
Right.
reels about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Often, like, that's one of the reasons that witches would have their own black book, their own grimoire, and oftentimes it wouldn't be inherited either. It would be an addition, because it's not something you copy. It's something you at some point you walk your own path. It takes you so far, and then you have to find the way yourself.
Mm.
Because I think that's one of the things, is that it's like a recipe book. The recipe book's going to give you what you want. It's like that's how this is how to make it. That's how you make it. That's it. But you're never going to learn to improve on it. You're never going to learn to. Can I make it better? Can I make it me by just following the recipe?
Mm,
And so that's I think a massive part of witchcraft. That's the whole
yeah,
point is putting the you in it.
right.
Um, yeah.
You and the land around you as well,
Oh yeah.
because it
Yeah.
does make a huge difference as well
It
Mm,
does.
to the
Um,
recipe, right?
it does. No, you're completely right. I think that's one of the reasons why coming back, I feel a lot better. One of the reasons I got quite sick in America, and as soon as I came back to the UK after about a year, it took 2 weeks, and I started to feel better.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, that makes
Just
sense, honestly.
yeah, yeah, it does.
yeah, I do. I part of me feels bad a little bit for the Americans because there's not like a culture there. Essentially, they're like just scrambling around for their roots of a culture. And the land itself in America, you can
Wow.
feel is very no,
Wow.
bad. You guys both have like such a beautiful culture, just part of your lives, but like Americans, we're living on stolen land, essentially. We've been born on stolen land. The land is not happy with us there. It does not like us, doesn't want you to connect most places. And I think they're all just like, please adopt me, Europe. A bit in a way. Because I think
Hmm.
that's why, you get DMs saying, oh, can I practice this Celtic magic that I found? Like, or is that barred to me? Or
The answer is no. Because the thing is, especially in America, everyone comes from somewhere.
yeah.
It's the same with the UK. Everyone comes from somewhere. And so when people are like looking and they want to research things, they're so worried. I'm like, no, that's great. Like if you want to research it and you want to find out and immerse yourself in it, that's a massive tribute to the very culture that you're trying to research. You know,
Oh,
um,
yes.
it's great, but I think there is now more of a reclamation in that sense when it comes
Mm,
to things like that than I think there was. We I think what before people had, especially in America, is the new age. It doesn't matter the microphone. God, the new age. Telling me don't touch the desk. The new age kind of woohoo thing
mm,
which was just a complete whitewash of multicultural kind of appropriations. And now people are realizing, oh shit, there's culture everywhere. We
mm,
have our own cultures back in our own genealogies. There's plenty of things that
And
we can
also the
read
culture
from.
of the diaspora, right? I feel like
Yeah,
people underestimate that. Like,
yeah,
and for example, the content that I do is for people who are somewhere else but want to connect to their roots and learn about all those things, because like it's not really available in English that much, to be honest.
mhm,
So I do that work so that people can basically access it. But I think that with the people that I connect with, oftentimes they come to me with those amazing stories of the ancestors that they learned about and
mhm,
what those ancestors did back here. It's awesome that they're researching that, but also like they already have ancestors back there, like in America, for example, right? Because they've
mhm,
been
yeah,
living there for a few generations. And
mhm,
the thing that I usually tell people is don't forget about that. Those people are buried in that ground as well.
yeah,
You are part of that land, even though I know it's uncomfortable for many reasons, like that have to do with colonialism, right? And
yeah,
right.
genocide, obviously. But diaspora culture evolved when those ancestors moved there. So
yeah,
it's already like a few hundred years old for some people, the
Yeah.
culture that they are immersed in. And I think that's just as valid as a baseline for a folk practice, for example,
Mhm,
as being back here and engaging in a folk practice as well.
right.
And I
yeah,
think some people try to go like too hardcore on themselves when it comes to going
Mm,
back to the roots, and being all about only like learning the language back here so they can do only the things from here. I feel like
mhm,
okay, that's really cool, but that feels kind of synthetic to me and not
yeah,
really like a lived experience that includes the land spirits and the plant spirits and the I guess, kind of zeitgeist of where you actually are in the world versus just
Mm.
dreaming about a distant land that your ancestors came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Right.
no, it does totally.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah,
glad.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you, isn't it? Well, no, it is. It's like
What
you.
do you do?
No, I mean, like, because you're half Lithuanian,
Mm.
and that's like, I think when we met, you started looking more into sort of folklore, Lithuanian folklore and stuff, and different pagan deities and such things
Mhm.
and customs and that.
Right.
And that's something that you felt a calling to.
Yeah. You feel a calling to it, but at the same time, you don't want to. I don't know. There's like this weird stigma I've seen in online spaces where it's like you're like an eager bunny, almost like feed me the scraps of my culture from like one generation ago, and you don't want to like also be that person either.
Yeah,
It's a weird relationship you have to have within yourself. And I'm sure that can take a whole other podcast episode.
yeah. But I mean, what I mean is, you're more entitled to do so than I am. For instance,
Yeah, right.
it falls upon you.
You put a lot of work on my plate on this podcast episode already. Okay, I've got like 6 things to do now.
Get an ancestor
Yeah, the
on.
ancestor altar,
Just
research your
plans.
culture.
I have
Yeah.
so much going on right now. Golly. Oh my goodness.
I think you should start like writing it down so you don't forget.
Yeah.
You're probably right. Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk about detoxing from social media because I know you've been talking lately about how you've taken a step back.
Yeah.
And I just kind of we were looking at what that process might be like and why you chose to take a step back from social media.
Honestly, I think the balance of like using social media, I touched on this already kind of with the negativity online and all that. But I think the balance of being online, especially as a creator, it's really fragile, and it's easy to cross the line where suddenly you are on a straight path towards burnout. And, at some point, your mental health can really take a toll, I feel like. So, um, watching myself, observing myself, how I function online, I guess over the years, I've learned to recognize certain things that start happening to me or ways I start feeling when I see that I really should take a break. So currently, this is one of those periods for me. It just so happens. So what that looks like for me is that I delete all of the social media apps from my phone because the phone is just it's too easy to reach for it. Even if you don't really think about it, and you want to check your calendar or whatever, and you find yourself like 30 minutes later scrolling through
Yeah.
something, right? So when I know that I'm in a place like that, I really need to stop myself and make it harder, basically, to go online. So um, I just avoid any type of content. Basically, I mostly focus on analog life. So for me, this means journaling more, going out more. Basically, the kind of normal things that you would do in daily life, but savoring them more, being more present, because I feel like the longer you use social media on a regular basis, uh, the more you kind of lose sight of everyday things, and the more you lose the mindfulness that
Mm.
should accompany you, especially as a witch, as a practitioner. Like
Yeah,
the lack of that mindfulness and being immersed in your reality makes you miss out on a lot.
yeah,
It's also, for me at least, I feel like it weakens my skills of divination, of entering trance, of spirit flight, of connection with spirits in general. So I feel like it's really important for me. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that this is, a recipe for everybody, because we are all different. Like I know some creators seem to be able to do this like constantly and not really get any like side effects. That's awesome if
Right.
yeah.
if that's the case. Like, but for
No,
me, I'm
I
not.
can't. I'm there
Yeah,
with. I'm exhausted. We're going on holiday soon, and I will not be turning the phone on. To be honest with you,
awesome.
'cause it's even now. You're like, you need to go on TikTok. How's your TikTok doing? I'm like, I don't know.
Mhm.
So well, look, I'm like, nah. Now, I just can't. I can't do it sometimes.
Yeah.
My sign, the thing I start to get fed up with everyone on TikTok. Doesn't matter who it is. As soon as a TikTok comes on, someone says, "Guys, I've just heard about this." I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I just fed up. Why am I scrolling? Because I really don't care what anyone tells me in this thing. And then I put it down. And I'm like, I'm done with it. No,
Yeah.
but I do. I just because I realize that you start to feel like everyone else's life is encroaching on yours, and you feel just like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like I need
Yeah.
a boundary.
Yeah.
I do feel like that, and it's one of those, as you're saying, trying to keep that life, your personal life and your life online separate as well. Which is another reason why a lot of the times I'm not big on commenting. A lot of people interact with everyone in comment.
Mm.
I've never been big on commenting because for me, um, well, for one, I'm autistic, so I don't like it. I just don't. I don't like just. But
Um,
it's this feeling of like giving more and more and more because it never stops. You know what I mean? Like once you
Yeah.
start, it never stops. And so then I'll feel like I have to respond to every single person, and
mm.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
Too much need to, you know.
I
So
know what you mean. Yeah, it's really draining. It's really draining. And I feel like many people commenting online these days, it's not even because they genuinely want to like say something to you. It's because they want to be seen out there. They want to network. It's kind of the thing you are supposed to do to grow on social media, right? It's all
yeah,
the
Mm.
social
yeah,
media strategies and all of that shit. It's
yeah,
not even genuine. So you really need to ask yourself, like, is this worth my engagement at the end of the day? And
yeah,
Mm.
also, like with just being exposed to things, I hate it that you can't really fully control what you are exposed to.
yeah,
Because you turn on those apps and you don't know what you're gonna see. And
Yeah.
you're most likely gonna see something that you didn't even follow. It's going to be something random. So you end up just being drained, used, your attention span being all over the place, right? And
yeah,
it kind of
Mhm.
feels like being not only overstimulated, but almost like, I don't know, like covered with slime of things you
yeah.
don't want to have anything to do
It's
with.
it is. It's like going through. It's like commuting through a city.
Mm.
It's
Oh
like
yeah,
as soon as you get home, you feel like you need a shower. It's
yeah.
just that other people's stuff. One of the worst is the trend now. Have you seen that trend where it's a slideshow and it's a slideshow about someone's pet, and eventually, by the time you get to the end of it, the pet died, and you're like, oh,
Oh
thank.
my god.
And it's supposed to be heartwarming because it's like, oh, the pet, and they came to life, and little clips about, oh, I loved going to the beach with you guys, and I have such a happy home now. And then you get to the end, it's like the vet said I'm not well, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's just like there's a mound of earth with their name on it. And you're like, oh shit, and it just makes you feel like great.
You
Oh,
just
Now,
wanted to see a dog and you just got traumatized.
yeah,
oh
oh,
my
so yeah,
goodness.
it's quite a big trend lately, and it really gets to you after a while. It's like
Oh
I'm
my.
sick of seeing these happy dogs, and then all of a sudden they end up dead.
Yeah, that's
God.
just not fair. Like you didn't sign up for that.
No,
No.
no, I like TikTok when it was mainly like babies giggling. I like the trend of babies giggling and cats falling over. That was brilliant. I loved that.
And that's where it should have probably stayed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
honestly. And then we hexed the moon.
Oh yeah, then
And
there was that. Yeah, of course.
yeah, the witch talk wars, and
There was a thing.
I feel like we've lived like 12 lives
Someone
now.
actually drew my attention to something
Mm.
recently about witch bottles,
Mm.
and um, people are on Witch Talk especially are kind of like creating witch bottles and showing people how to make witch bottles, but they're not actually witch bottles. Like they're completely different ingredients. They have completely different uses. And I was
Mhm.
and I'm the mind baffles because it's almost as though are these people just doing it on purpose now so that to get a reaction? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Mhm.
do. I think you're talking about the trend where people are like basically making bottles or jars for everything, like every purpose.
Yeah.
Whereas that doesn't make sense. Like you're not
Oh,
supposed to trap all that shit in a bottle. It's only for
yeah.
specific purposes of like protection or something
Yeah.
or cursing somebody. But
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things, spell jars. I hate spell jars with a vengeance. Why? Why must everything have? I've got a jar for that. That's it. That's all it is. There's
Mm,
and there's so many diverse things. It's the same with like candle magic. That's one of the first things that people learn when they come to witchcraft is
Mm-hmm.
magic.
mm,
But like the candle really represents a very small fire, which a lot of folk practitioners would have gone out and set a very small fire outside
yeah.
and used the fire, would have like leapt over the fire, would have fanned the fire, would have danced around the fire. And you can still do that. If you've got the space, start a small fire, a safe small fire. I'm not telling
Yeah.
people to
Well,
start a fire,
In the
but yeah,
middle of your living room.
yeah,
someone would do it though. That's the problem.
yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't tell them that's unsafe, they probably would. Yeah.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's I think the modern idea of witchcraft as well.
Mm,
People are making it so user friendly, which is
right.
fine. That it completely dismisses all the other reasons why we did things in the first place.
It is sad. It's kind of like an
It
eraser
is a bit. It is a
of
race.
the history
Yeah.
of folk craft.
Well, it is. That's what spell jars are doing, aren't they? Because now
Yeah.
you don't need to know blood stopping charms or things like this. You can
Mm,
just put everything in a jar and give it to someone.
yeah,
It's cancelling out so much history that people have accumulated. It's
right.
sad.
It is.
I
Well,
agree. I
what
wish.
prompt? Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add that I kind of wish that it was standard protocol for people to get to know at least the basic kind of historical things that witches used to do,
Yeah,
so
Mm,
that they can have like an actual foundation to go off of, and then they would understand why it doesn't make sense to make a jar for everything or a witch bottle for everything. Because we might be talking about this now, but some people might be listening and be like, but why? Right?
yeah, that's true.
right.
The
Yeah,
only thing I have to say to that is like go read some like documents from the past that describe witches' historical practices, and you will understand what's documented. And also, if you slap animism on top of that, that will explain to you on a practical basis why that is, and that's a good foundation, not somebody's TikTok telling you to make a jar.
exactly. That's something I think I made a TikTok once about the use of glass in practice, and the idea is that glass from an alchemist point of view,
Mm,
glass contains the virtue, the spirit of something, the essence of it, because it's non-porous. And so, like for instance, acid and other such things, even in science now we use glass. And so, if you put something in glass, you're trying to contain it more than you're trying to harness this. So, to create something that's supposed to go outwards is not really good putting it in glass. And the idea I use from that is if you look at folklore, for instance, look at the idea of Snow White. She was placed in a glass coffin. Now, she was thought to be dead, but placed in a glass coffin. Why was she placed in a glass coffin? To preserve her body, to entrap her spirit, to keep her in a stasis, in a sense. The idea of the glass coffin to preserve her, to keep her. Because this at the time was how people thought glass worked. It was not something that you had around you a lot. And so glass had a very mystical attribute. And so when you look at like witch bottles and other such things, they were placed in pottery and porous materials and putting things inside eggshells and different things like this. It's completely different. And yet that's one of those things. And I remember making that TikTok and someone just commented, I'll use glass if I want. It's like,
Okay.
fine then. I'm giving you a legitimate reason why. And they're just like, nah, I'm going to keep using glass. I'm like, fine, whatever.
Okay, yeah, sure.
go off, baby. Go
Oh
off.
my goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So what prompted you to start the occult tea segment, and what have you learned from it? Because I'm sure you've gotten a lot of hashtags on that so far.
Yeah. Where do I start? Okay, so what prompted me for this whole
Yeah.
thing? Actually, it wasn't me, really. It was Leah and Ella. They approached me with the idea of creating like a live discussion about those topics because I was kind of talking about them on my social media, and they thought it was a good idea to make a broader kind of discussion out of it. So,
Right.
not I shouldn't be taking credit for the original idea, I guess, but then we kind of brainstormed together and decided that instead of making like a video where the three of us just talk about it, maybe we should make a tag so that everybody can talk about it instead. It just felt more inclusive, and kind of accessible to see a broader variety of people's voices. I have
Mhm.
to admit, we've had so many VRs. I haven't seen all of them because it's just physically impossible for me to
Yeah.
watch them all. So I feel like we created kind of a monster of a tag because there's so many prompts and questions and things to consider that
Yeah.
people's VRs are usually like over an hour long, right? But I
Mm.
think it's
Yeah.
important, even if I don't watch it, like it's not for me, right? It's for
Right.
those people's audiences. So I feel like starting that conversation, having it out there, um, it's just really important to bring up every now and then because this is not a new topic. This is something
Mm.
that comes up every now and then, usually in the context of drama where somebody turns out to be a grifter or somebody was abused or scammed in the community. That's when it usually comes up. But we felt like maybe bringing it up without all of the drama involved would also, lend itself to having a more open conversation. Because honestly, what I see a lot in the witchcraft community online is um, that it's not so rare, really, to be scammed, to be taken advantage of, to be, advertised falsely to when it comes to services and all of that. It's on a daily basis that people are exposed to that. But the people I talk to, and people sometimes come to me talking about this to like ask um, for my opinion, like to verify if something is a scam or legit, etc. Like people are really scared to be open about the experiences that they had with those scammers and grifters and abusers that exist in this community. So um, it was really kind of sad for me to realize how many people keep silent about their, shitty experiences because they're scared of exposing somebody, basically. So we kind of thought that, if we have a group of people talk about it, maybe people are going to feel safer to bring it up and talk about it more openly. Because honestly, like it's really hard to also be a practitioner online. And how do you really differentiate yourself from all the scammers? How you,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like it's really
Yeah.
hard, especially if somebody from the outside looks inside into our community. They probably assume that all of us are just,
Yeah.
grifters, and we are out there to take advantage of people who are in pain or going through something or want to connect with a dead beloved one or whatever, right? Because it's often like people who seek our help. Those are people who are in really vulnerable places in life oftentimes. So yeah, it's really just
It can be
really
difficult.
tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it can
Mhm.
be. Yeah. I
And
think
yeah, go for
it
it.
I'm sorry. I say I think it's nice also that the occult tea, what it does is, as you say, it's not a new subject, but the way that now it's been done is in the form of a movement. So that if everyone speaks about it, especially about, you know, a lot of the quite frankly, a lot of the gatekeeping that a lot of people are doing about witchcraft, that and they're keeping stuff that's not right as well. And there's a lot of misinformation. And there's so many of us now who are saying this, where we can say it without fear of being attacked, because it's not just one person saying it here or there, it's many people saying it,
Mhm.
and that I think that was necessary because a lot of the times within the kind of spiritual woohoo communities as well, you kind of say, excuse me, but actually that's not actually true. And then everyone's like, shut the hell up. And you're like, oh, okay. Because you're outnumbered,
Yeah.
really. And
Yeah.
so it's that for me, that felt great doing our
Yeah.
spiritual team was just felt like
Yeah.
finally.
Cool too. You could tell. Oh gosh, I had to edit that puppy down. because we were raging. We were raging in that video.
That was one of the things that I said. What I said here is what we talked about in the cult too. It's like if you don't possess cunning or lateral thinking or common sense, you shouldn't be practicing magic.
Yeah.
You know, magic and witchcraft isn't for everyone. It's not meant to be for everyone. You know, the same way that you can, you know, some people have a natural affinity at drawing or sculpting or singing. Doesn't mean you can't learn it, but some people just take to it easier. And
Right.
so therefore, you know, some people are going to follow that, other people aren't, you know.
Right.
And I find that it's a bit like modern art. You know what I mean? Nowadays, modern art is, you know, a guy just literally gets like, what was that woman who has, you see that one with a mound of butter and she just hit it with a belt and everyone watched and clapped?
Oh, I
Would
didn't see
that be
Have
that.
you not
that?
seen that?
Would that
Sounds
It's
like fun.
it's this video of this woman in an art gallery. She's on her hands and her knees. And there's a mound of butter on the floor, and she's got like a belt or it's like a chain with a key on it, and she's hitting it, and
Okay.
butter's going everywhere. And then she finishes, and everyone claps, and she bows like this, and everyone claps and goes, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" And that's that's kind of sometimes what I feel like in the witchcraft community, that there is this essence of I can't do like modern artists. I can't paint a beautiful scenery, but what I can do is just bullshit my way into making people think that me
Yeah.
slapping the shit out of some butter is
Is
my
witchcraft.
expression of yeah, and that's what it feels like
Yeah.
sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
I understand.
Oh my
I
god.
lost you for a
This is
minute, but I got.
hilarious.
I took us around the house.
Where we go?
This is
I'm
so
sorry.
true though. This is
I
so
have
true though. Like,
it is true. I have such a hatred of modern art. I really do.
okay.
I can't help it.
Anything else?
No. And when I mean modern art, I don't mean like Banksy or stuff. I mean the pointless modern art, you know, like
Yeah.
takes
No,
no
but
skill.
for real, like if you do any kind of craft, like you
Hmm.
need to put in a lot of time and
Yeah.
energy to master it. It's
Yeah.
obvious. Like I also play piano. I'm not like a, professional or anything. I just graduated one what do you say, like one degree of music school, doesn't matter, but I
Yeah.
do play the piano. I know how to do it. I was classically trained. And now if somebody comes to me and tells me that's great that you do that, but I just got my piano off of Amazon yesterday and I learned how to do this, and so this is now like a full blown spectrum of what you actually can do with the piano, like that's
Hmm.
bullshit. Obviously you need to put in years of practice to
Right.
be able
Yeah.
to learn the full spectrum of what you can actually do, what this instrument is capable of. And there's no way around it. That's the same way with every craft that you can
Yeah.
master. Like you said, like with sculpting, painting, or whatever, it just
Yeah.
takes a lot of time and dedication, and you can't skip that. So when I see people online getting offended when they hear from people with years of experience that this is how things work and this is actually documented and reliable and safe for you, because if something is reliable, you can kind of depend on it that it's not going to backfire on you and do harm to you. At least the
Right.
Yeah.
you know possibility of that happening is lower if it's backed up but by many people's years of experience. But some people get offended at that because they say that that's gatekeeping and that's like policing what you can versus can't do in your craft. I mean, fair, like have your opinions, but I'm just saying, like, you're making it harder for yourself if you think that way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So why
That's the
not take
thing.
advice from somebody who knows their shit?
Yeah. You can't win
You
sometimes,
can't
can you?
win because
Yeah.
there's people who want advanced stuff will be other people will be like, that's too advanced. You can't show people that without warning about what could happen, and then you don't show advanced stuff and you get fucked for it anyway.
I got that once. I did something and someone said in the comments, they went, "Why are you showing people this stuff? They're not meant to see it." I'm like, you can't win.
You can't
you can't
win.
win, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bit like imagine like someone putting their finger in a plug socket and you're like, don't do that. And they're like, don't tell me what to do. And then they electrocute themselves. Like, why didn't you tell me? I'm like, thank you. Yes. Like,
I
Yeah,
like
it's
that
like
one.
that.
you like that one?
I
better
like
than-
that one better than the butter one.
No,
We
the
got
bu-
to the point
Yeah, but
quicker.
the butter one was for a different context.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But honestly, people often ask, like, why don't you tell us what can go wrong or what can happen to you if you do this? Like I can tell you what can happen if you do something that's, based off of like bullshit advice from TikTok. That
Mm.
can really go wrong really fast. And growing up with knowing practitioners over the years, I've seen people go crazy basically. I've seen people commit suicide. I've
Mm.
seen people having their lives ruined because they approached certain aspects of the occult, broadly speaking. It's usually
Mm.
not even witchcraft. It's like bullshit occult edgy practices of summoning Goetia demons without having background,
Yeah.
or dealing with some of those new age practices, like some, I don't know, like past life regression or whatever the fuck. It's not safe. It's just not
Yeah.
safe.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
compare that to having legitimate information from a like experienced practitioner. If you follow the actual advice, uh
Mm.
chances are much bigger that you're going to be safe doing that
Right.
than trying some of those like shady ass practices that you read about somewhere from people who usually tell you that you can do everything, there's no rules, there's no consequences, and it's all like,
Oh yeah. The
right?
intention is everything
Yeah.
trend.
Oh
I would
yeah,
go for
that's
that.
Yeah.
that
I can't stand that. Intention
that
is
can get
everything.
you into trouble. Yeah,
Really does.
Mm.
My answer to that is if intention was everything, I'd be a millionaire by now. Because
obviously.
that was all every single one of us intended to be a millionaire when we grew up, surely. And we're not. So yeah. But that's the exchange in magic that they talk about, like
Yeah.
everything requires an exchange. And by saying intention is everything means that there's no exchange.
Mhm.
It's
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
Mhm.
yeah.
There's always an exchange. And
Always.
you often, like with modern practitioners of eclectic magic, they don't really consider that. And that's why they get themselves into trouble. You
Yeah.
have to, in one way or another, you will have to pay for the things you get from witchcraft. Nothing is free. It's
Mm.
like the same way everything in nature works, like when a new baby is born, like the atoms that they consist of weren't just produced,
Yeah.
like money gets printed when there's not enough, like that's not how it works. And it's the same in magic. Like you don't get something out of thin air. You need to, when you take something, you need to place something back of equal weight so that it kind of balances itself out.
Right.
Nothing's free.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You asked this one then.
Which one?
The second to last.
The second last.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think of those who do not include the devil in the craft?
Okay.
I'm smiling
um
already.
I'm going to approach this from my cultural background, because I think it can shed some light, at least for me, it does, on why people do this in the
Mm.
first place. So I think that many people who are gravitating towards witchcraft come from a background of being in some kind of monotheistic religion, like, for example, Christianity, right? In my case, that would be Catholicism, which I was born into it. I grew up in it until I rebelled at some point. And those who go to witchcraft oftentimes are at the stage of rebellion against all of those patriarchal. Sorry, I'm kind of stumbling over this word. It's difficult for me in English,
Yeah.
patriarchy, those
Yeah.
values, basically. That's what Christianity is at its core. So when they hear of some kind of authority figure that
Mm.
stands at the head of something, in this case, the devil,
Mm.
their reaction is like, oh no, this is, the opposite, or also, but in some ways, the same as the figure of God, basically, what I'm trying to say. So they've recognized this same hierarchy and they apply
Mhm.
the Christian hierarchy onto witchcraft. They think it's the same thing. And that's why I can see so much hate towards it, so much fear towards it, and just in general, people being kind of like, I don't want to have anything to do with this figure. I don't want any authority to rule over my craft. But what is the problem is that they don't realize the real kind of background of the devil that's removed from that Christian background and the Christian figure that was named the devil, because that's a totally different thing. So I
Yeah.
think that When we see people being so opposed to the devil in the craft, I think they have a lot of religious wounds to take care of, to
Yeah,
work through. They need to take care of themselves first in this regard to be able to look at their background without those wounds speaking for them, if that makes sense. I know that
yeah,
for me, it took many years to truly, go through a process of shedding that
Mm.
um that upbringing, basically, right?
yeah,
Now I'm on the other side of it, you could say, and I fucking love the devil. And I think if you know how to approach the devil, what kind of figure he is, and for Christians and Catholics and people with that kind of background, even witches who come from that background, I'm just gonna tell you right now, you're gonna probably be surprised, but the devil in his function in the craft, at least the way I perceive him, he's very similar to Mary, to Mother Mary. They are both kind of those figures that are intermediaries between the world of men and the world of the spirits in a lot of
yeah,
Mm.
ways. And for Christians, Mary does that.
yeah,
For us witches, the devil does that. And he's not some kind of figure that wants to control you and be on top and wants to be worshipped and wants to take away your freedom and your power. That's not who the devil is. And I think people who deny the fact that the devil exists in the craft, I think they are missing this information, basically. And
Mm.
they fear what might happen if they dig deeper to find out, basically. So I do sympathize. I understand why they come from this perspective to it, but also I just wish they wouldn't be speaking for all of us when they say that the devil is not present in the craft, because obviously we exist.
yeah,
We disagree. We think the devil is very much present, and we love him. So
yeah,
obviously he must be present, right? So I
yeah,
just
Right.
wish people would take care of their religious upbringing, trauma, and wounds first, and then speak about those things.
yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
take.
Do you think, I'll ask both of you this question because I've seen this a lot lately, especially in comments, but do you think any deity is like should be present when you are practicing witchcraft? Because I think that's one of the biggest comments I got was like, you don't need to have the devil in the craft. You don't need to have any deities. You don't have to worship anyone or anything. You can
Okay.
just practice
For a
witchcraft.
start, my
So,
personally for me, I don't think. Right, let's break it down to one thing. A
yeah.
lot of the times, when I see people on social media saying that they're practicing witchcraft,
Mm,
all I see are pagans worshipping deities. I
Yes,
don't
yes.
see witchcraft. I see pagans worshipping their deities.
right.
You don't have to have a deity to be a witch.
Hmm.
That's for me personally, the devil's not a deity. He's not a deity. He's not a god.
Mm,
Okay, he's like he's like if life if life was a person,
right.
right, and the water was the blood running through the veins, and the earth was the flesh, he would be the breath. He would be its breath. It permeates through. It keeps everything uplifted and continuing, and it's always ever changing, always seeking answers and giving answers as well. I suppose that's what he is to me. It's he's not a deity. He's not just a figure
Mm.
in that way. And it, yeah, because I don't know about you, but that's what I see on social media all the time is just pagans.
Oh my God, I couldn't agree more, honestly. I see it the same way. And I think people have some kind of obsession almost with deifying spirits and perceiving spirits as deities instead of just spirits, as if being a spirit was somehow lesser in some way than a deity. I don't know. I think people are again kind of missing context of the history of religion and how that developed. Like back in the day of our ancestors before they developed societies that were hierarchical, there were no deities per se as we see them today because there was no need for them in that way, because there were no hierarchies, right? And when you look at pantheons, they are very much reflective of the human hierarchies that we have in our societies. And I feel like that's when those roles for those deities really came to be after the agrarian revolution, where people, finally settled in and needed some kind of structure to avoid, chaos basically, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
killing each other off. And that's
Yeah.
where deities came to be a thing in the first place. But when you look way
Right.
back before that, there were no deities. There was no need for that.
Mm.
And we didn't need hierarchy the same way we need today, or do we? That's
No.
another question, right? But
Yeah.
I think that some people are really obsessed with this pagan hierarchy. As you say, it's paganism. This is not really witchcraft.
Yeah.
In witchcraft, you don't need deities. You might as well like work with saints, or work with just land spirits,
Yeah.
or work with just your ancestors, or just with the devil. Like, it's fine. It's
Mhm.
Yeah.
fine. You really don't have to choose in that way. I think when this question is posed, though, I think it's really in those pagan circles where they maybe don't know the difference between deities and spirits, and that it's equally valid. I think people ask this also in the context of, can you practice witchcraft without any spirit presence at all? And I think in that regard, I would answer no, simply. It's not
Mhm.
possible to practice just from yourself. Uh,
Mhm.
it's just kind of like psychodrama inside your brain at that
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
really. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's it's um it's very strange. I think people are looking to a lot of people come from monotheistic religions and they need something almost like a buffer. They need something to fall back on. They can't just accept that, oh, there's nothing there. It's
Right.
me, it's down to me, and this is my practice that I'm doing. And the animist point of view, it can be difficult for them to comprehend that everything governs itself within its spirit. And so therefore they're like they need to look for that, or as you
Mhm.
say, the authoritative figure that governs this. I think that's also the idea is when you said about how the Christian devil, I always think of this almost like Monty Python sketch of just like people going to the church and being like, well, hang on, if God loves us, why does he all these bad things keep happening? And then just like, and then they just see the devil over there and be like, it's him, he's doing it, sort of thing, you know. Um, just kind of passing it on to him, like, yeah, it's his fault
Mhm.
because it's a get out clause in that way,
Mhm.
Other stop people
Exactly.
questioning, you know.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I don't know if you both remember, but it was like I think 2 years ago, like having a date, like you had to have a deity on social media. It was very much like a Pokemon Go situation. Like,
Yep.
it's like,
Everybody in their bio, like on
yeah,
social media, was, I am a devotee of this and
yeah,
that
devoted,
deity.
yeah. Mhm.
Everybody. Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I've
I
seen that.
Yeah, I was like, this is really weird.
I like when people they they describe themselves as priests or priestesses of deities as well, which in
Yeah.
fact, like, so you if you're a priestess, then that is your job, like, for a start. So you've given up your daytime job and you literally act as devotional, and everything you do is in name of that deity. You've dedicated your life to them. Because if not, you're technically not a priest or a priestess, you know.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, it's quite funny how I understand that people want that need. They feel so strong, and I'm not trying to take that away from them, that connection at all. But I think there's sometimes it's that it's
Mhm.
that kind of thing. Like that's all I need.
Yeah.
I don't need anything else.
Elwyn's holding his hands up on either side of his
Yeah, sorry, blinkers like blinkers for a horse. Like,
eyes.
to free of distraction in that.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in this context, titles matter and they shouldn't
Yeah.
be abused just because they sound cool on social media. Like, as you say, with the title of priest or priestess, that's a job, that's a serious matter. And in the same way, I see this with people appropriating in a lot of ways, like some titles from specific cultures. for very specific people who did things in their local communities, and that's how they earned that title in the first place. And people just willy-nilly taking that and applying it to themselves, even though they don't even practice in a community, like in a local sense in that way, right? Like I see that a lot, for example, when it comes to Polish and Slavic witchcraft, with the title of Szeptucha, which is like the whisperer. That's a very specific type of practitioner who basically speaks spells in a whispering manner, but it's very specific practice based on this combination of folk, pre-Christian beliefs combined with Orthodox Christianity. It's, for example, in the east of Poland, and those people, they inherited from the grandmother to the granddaughter, so every second generation. So for me, even though I also whisper my spells, technically, I would never call myself a szeptucha, whereas I can see some people like from the US just taking that title, creating a business around it, and being like, wow,
Yeah,
great. Oh my
Yeah.
God, I just can't get over it sometimes, honestly.
that's crazy.
And it's the
I-
same with the priestess. It's the same.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
It's the
They do that with us. The cedar, isn't that the Norse seer? It's spelled like
Ah,
cedar
the vulva, right?
yeah,
or
yeah,
vulva.
Evolver, yeah,
That's what I'm thinking of.
yeah. That's the yeah, that's a tough one, that as well, because like some people really, they genuinely want to practice, but at the same time, it's people just assume that role, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, like, is anyone teaching you? Like, no. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to be a fireman. You know,
Yeah. At
yeah.
some
I
point,
mean,
it becomes more about identity than the actual practice, I feel like. Just
yeah,
slapping those titles on because
yeah.
I am this and this and this. Do you practice it? Nah, not really, but I am this and this. And if you tell me otherwise, you're gatekeeping or
Right.
whatever, right?
That's the thing that a lot of the times people say, like, "Are you a witch?" Or they say you can't be a witch because you're a man. And I actually say there's one of the things is when we first started the business, when I came to America, and I wanted to continue this business that my aunts were doing. You decided, no, you have to say witch, like say witch, because I wanted to identify. I said Pella, I'll be a Pella, and she was like, people aren't going to know what a Pella is. And it's true. And in a sense, it is very much the same thing, you know, but there is still that part of me that's like, when people say, I'm like, well, technically I'm a pet, you know, but,
And they're like, what?
but yeah, then they're like, what? And so it's just like, never mind, you know, it's one of those things. It's trying to find that,
Yeah.
trying to find that place as well for, I think, for titles sometimes, because people, unless something is mainstream, unless something trends, sometimes it's very difficult to get people to understand it or to even accept it, you know, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to do that one, my one? Me
Yeah,
or
go on
you?
then. Go
All
on.
right. What do you want to promote? This could be merch.
You don't have to read that.
All right, then. Well, you down then, should you?
Mm, I'm just gonna say, like, if you've enjoyed me on this podcast, you can check out my presence on social media. I'm everywhere as PolishFolkWitch. I create content and I write really in-depth and rooted in a solid bibliography articles about my culture, about the folk magic, about the folklore and practices, and basically the perception of the world of my ancestors for people who want to get immersed in that for themselves and perhaps don't know my language. So if you are into that kind of stuff, anything that has to do with Polish folk magic, basically, and Polish traditions, I'm your gal. So again, that's the only thing I can promote right now. And thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Oh,
of course.
thank you.
Thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm really, really stoked to have been invited. So thanks.
Thank you.
You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook as The Antlered Crown, or on YouTube as Elwynn the Witch.
I offer a variety of readings, including bone, tarot, medium connection, and deity guidance, as well as spiritual consultations, which are done live and scheduled via Zoom. I am also offering spell work and custom merchandise, all of which you can find on my website, theantleredcrown.com.
You can also join our community on Patreon and get access to our Discord server, group meetings, one-on-ones with Elwynn, tutorials, discounts, and other goodies, depending on the tier level you choose. And always remember,
Tip your witch, bitch.
bye-bye!
Bye.